SOS, SOS, England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, Australia and all New Zealand, Tokelau, Samoa, Cook Islands, our countries have been taken over by a religious cult called the Latter-day Saint Church. Majesty, Her Majesty, come and help us, bring the army out. We've been taken over by a religious cult called the Latter-day Saint Church, and they're spreading out all across the world. They've got their 8 quorums, and they've got their presidents in each quorum, and they are all governed by the 12 apostles. I've got a picture of the apostles that I'll give to you in a minute. These are the 12 apostles here of the Latter-day Saint Church. Now, I've got some information that's just come to light. Now, this was posted in 2019. Now, in 2019, some very interesting things happened. Russell M. Nelson went to visit the Pope. Alpito Williams CO went to visit the Pope. Russell M. Nelson came to New Zealand to meet the New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, and what else happened at that time? Russell M. Nelson also went to visit the various islands, and someone's just sent this to me today, and we're just going to have a look. It says, China's debt policy is challenged by new players. Now, I believe that this was all set up. Now, listen, I've got to make sure I've got my pictures not mixed up here. The administrator of the country of Tonga, which is it is connected to New Zealand, but it's also independent. But it is under the Majesty, the Queen, and they're trying to get all of our countries out of the Commonwealth and to go under the guidance of the Latter-day Saint Church. Now, Ross Ardern is Jacinda Ardern's father. Now, I'm going to tell you, this is like, what is it called? Cronyism or something like that, when there is one family that have taken over all of our countries together with the state of Utah. And we've all got to get onto this. And Ian Ardern, he is the administrator of a place called Tonga or Tokelau. Anyway, let's go and have a look at what's going on here. I'm not going to read it all, but it says here, the Latter-day Saint Church, or it's the Mormon Church, but they changed their name because they tried to, there was a lot of child molestation charges, including Russell M. Nelson's own son and daughter-in-law were accused of touchy parties with the children, and so they've tried to change their name from the Mormon Church to the Latter-day Saints, but it's Mormons really, so let's just call a spade and a pig, shall we? So the Latter-day Saint Church has offered to help Tonga. What has happened is that these people have gone in to administer, and they've given them millions and millions of dollars to help them build their roads, to help them build all their things. And now, and they're doing the same thing in New Zealand. We're up to about $50 billion in debt or something in New Zealand. They're driving our countries into debt. And then who's going to come in and save the day? The Latter-day Mormon Church is going to come in. Now, the Kingdom of Tonga is the country in the South Pacific with a population of 110. It was transitioning. They're calling it a transition. They're trying to remove us from the monarch and our protections of the 1688 Bill of Rights, which I'll show you in a minute. They're trying to move us into some other kind of a thing. Now, it went into debt with a loan of $120 million from China. Now, let me tell you something. New Zealand is very involved with any loans that these people take and oversee all of it and advise them. And so they've encouraged this Tonga to take this $120 million loan, and then Tonga's just been sitting back and waiting and hoping that China will say, oh, the debt will be forgiven. But of course, they're not going to. And so who walks in but Russell M. Nelson? Make sure I've got all my pictures here. Russell M. Nelson, who is the big honcho of the 12 apostles. So there's the 12 apostles here. And then Russell M. Nelson is the leader of all of them. Like, he's like, you could equate him to be similar to an unelected king. He has, you can't call him a king, he doesn't have the name king, but that is kind of his role. And these are all the lowly princes that are under him. And then under that are the Ardurns, Ian Ardern, Ross Ardern, and Jacinda Ardern. Let's see if I can get them all in here, my picture. So there you've got Jacinda Ardern, who is the president of, the Prime Minister of New Zealand. Then you've got Ross Ardern, who is her father, and he is the administrator of Tokelau and other islands as well. And then you've got Ian Ardern, and he's heading up in Samoa. And then you've got here a man called Vincent Haylick. Vincent Haylick is the president of the American Samoa, and he's in charge of all these three. Okay? And then Vincent Haylick is Jacinda Ardern's uncle. So you can't tell me that our country is running independently. You can't tell me that our country is being run in a democratic way. Not when you've got all these members of these families heading up all of these countries on the sly, on the wink wink. And then you've also got Alpito William Seo. Now, he is also a Mormon, and he is a Samoan almost to a king. So these people all here, it's hard to hold them up, are all running the whole caboodle together. Now, that's not democracy. That isn't. And what they've done is Tonga's been put into debt with China, and the Latter-day Saint Church has offered to come in and pay the debt for them. Well, what happens when they come in and pay the debt for them? And they've said, now they're going to, what's he say? The vast majority are Christians. The fastest growing religion also in New Zealand, they're building Latter-day Saint churches all over New Zealand, all over all the islands are building Latter-day Saint churches. They're not. They are a religious cult, and they have been, their headquarters is in Salt Lake City of Utah, and their most famous former US president was Mitt Romney, which I think he got prosecuted for something, didn't he? So they gain all their converts in Tonga. The church wants to build on its successes in Tonga. The president of the church, Russell M. Nelson, visited the Pacific Islands, including Tonga, and while he was there, he met the king, the prime ministers, and others, and there were rumours starting to circulate that he was going to assess Tonga. Well, assessed, meaning buy Tonga, and this is very dangerous for New Zealand as well. And then So there's not much more there. But anyway, the main point is that Russell M. Nelson has offered to buy. I don't know if he has. Now, in 2019, Russell M. Nelson brought his entire delegation and they sat in New Zealand Parliament. That you can see there. There is Jacinda Ardern, Ian Ardern, Russell M. Nelson, Vincent Halleck, who is her uncle. He was here. And then Ross Ardern, you can't get even any pictures of him. He doesn't show very many pictures. Now, here they are in New Zealand Parliament, and Russell M. Nelson gave the Book of Mormon, placed the Book of Mormon with Jacinda Ardern's name on it into the New Zealand Parliament. And here are all the church members outside the beehive. There's Ross Ardern and Vincent Halleck and Russell M. Nelson. Now, here, I'm going to tell you a bit about them in a minute. Here is which Ian Ardern with Alpito Williams CO. Now, I just only did a video about Alpito Williams CO and Chris Farfoy. Try and get my thing up here. Chris Farfoy, Alpito Williams CO, both of them are ministers of courts, ministers of justices, ministers of immigration in New Zealand Parliament. And Chris Farfoy is changing our laws like there's no tomorrow. And the laws that he's changing are to remove the majesty from the governance of New Zealand. You've got to watch out of New Zealand Maori. You've all got to watch out to what these people are up to. Now let's go and have a look. Here is our 1688 Bill of Rights. And I'll turn off the China step there. And here's what it says. It says, I do swear and abhor and detest. Let's put it here. I do declare that no foreign prince, here's the foreign prince, and we can almost equate him to, well, we won't. Here's your foreign prince here. No foreign prince. And I do declare that no prelate. So I had to go and Google prelate and now I've forgotten what it means. So a prelate is a bishop or a high ecclesiastical dignitary. So we've got, he is a Samoan, basically a prince, and well, very high up in the royalty. And then we've got here Ross Ardern, and Ross Ardern is a high ecclesiastical dignitary. And he's very involved with the political matters in New Zealand, even though he acts on the sidelines when his niece is the Prime Minister of New Zealand and his brother is the administrator of Tokelau and various other islands. And when he's over in there, the whole family should not be allowed in New Zealand politics. And then when we go back to our 1688 Bill of Rights, we can see here also no potentate. So I wanted to know what the word potentate means. So I went to potentate. No, I don't want to make this too long. So a potentate is a monarch or a ruler or an autocratic. So that it doesn't have to be a monarch. It can be just a ruler. And here's a ruler, and he has been attending our parliament and meeting with Jacinda Ardern. He has been offering to buy up, to pay debt in the Tongan Islands, And so he is a ruler, and this is what it says in our 1688 Bill of Rights. And it also says, no state, the state of Utah, should have no jurisdiction. And then it says, so there, what have we got here? We have got, let's see what we've got here. We've got here a foreign prince, and we've got here a prelate, and we've got here a potentate, and we've got all of these, and meeting with our Prime Minister of New Zealand, who is also working together with another, because he is another prelate, so he comes under prelate as well. And also, Alpito William Seo was previously a bishop. So they're all in it together. And it says that they ought to have, do declare that no foreign prince, prelate, state of Utah, potentate ought to have any jurisdiction, any power, any superiority, or any authority ecclesiastical. Remember this word ecclesiastical, because we're going to look at Ian Aradern, or spiritual within this realm. So help me God. So what they're doing, this family all together, these two families, the Samoan Matai families and the Aradern families and the Nelson president, it's all is, in my opinion, in my conspiracy theory, illegal. Now let's go and have a look at what they're doing. Ross Ardern. Let's have a look at who is Ross Ardern. Now, you can't get, he's a sneaky bugger, Ross Ardern. He doesn't allow any pictures of him. Even you go to images, there's usually images sprawled all over the place. This is about the only image you can find of him. He doesn't allow any pictures to be taken of him, even when he goes to the wedding, even when he goes to the parliament, anywhere. Even the newspapers, you won't see his picture. Very hard to get a picture of. I don't even know what he looks like now. But he used to be the High Commissioner of Niue. That's another island around New Zealand that is governed by New Zealand. And then he's moved from there to be, in 2018, the administrator of Tokelau. And it clearly says here, he is a practicing member of the Church of Jesus Christ in the Latter-day Saints, and his twin brother is a general authority. And so I wanted to know, what is a so this should exclude him right for a start. When Jacinda Ardern and when Ross Ardern have got family members so high up in that church, should they be permitted to govern in any of our islands of New Zealand that now they're talking about selling Tonga off to the Latter-day Saint Church? I think it's not good. So I wanted to know, what is a general authority? A general authority who has, so the general authorities, there are two. Jacinda Ardern has two general authorities in her family. The first one is Ian Ardern, who is the twin brother of Ross Ardern, who heads up Tokelau, and Vincent Halleck is the uncle of Jacinda Ardern, and he is also a general authority. And if we looked on our Bill of Rights, what does it say there? No prelate. No prelate. And a prelate is anyone, let's go back to prelate. I think I took it out. No, here it is. A prelate is a higher ecclesiastical dignitary. So that is what a general authority is, an ecclesiastical authority over the church. And what it says here is that they're called the brethren, and first scripture. Now, I can't see it here, but apparently the general authorities are the only ones in the church that, here it says here. So they started in 1835. In 1835, that we've been doing a lot of videos in New Zealand, because in 1835, the missionaries, which were schisms and child molesters and all of that, they had set up business in New Zealand, and the New Zealand chiefs got together with the majesty and threw them all out, and they have actually never left. Well, the authorities are the only ones that can question the 12 apostles. So if the 12 apostles make a decision, the only ones allowed to question their decisions are the general authorities. That's how high up they are. They are as high as you can get, those two there, Elder Ian and Elder Vincent Halleck. And I think that Brent Natris is a family member of Halleck, but don't quote me on that. So this is how high they are up in the ecclesiastical authority, that they are the only ones allowed to challenge any decisions by these 12 here. I think nobody's allowed to challenge him. No. Now, so Iernadern, now we're going to go to Iernadern. He's the general authority, and they've got a thing called the Quorum of the 8th. New Zealand was designated the 8th Quorum. Now, the 8th Quorum had only recently been added, and I did a video about this about a year ago, and I explained all about the 8th Quorum, that they have divided the world up into various areas called areas and quorums, and New Zealand was just divided from Australia to become under the 8th quorum or the 10th area or something. And after I did that video, anything to do with the Mormon church and using the word New Zealand has disappeared. So I can't find it anymore. But it is in one of my older videos if you want to go and look at it. But anyway, he's in charge of that. And then Vincent Halleck is also a general authority, and he's from American Samoa. And he is, you can see what they've done to New Zealand. You see how, you can't see my finger pointing, but if you see here, New Zealand used to be attached here to Australia. And what they've done is changed our map and made us like this and called us Polynesia. But New Zealand was never part of Polynesia, because New Zealand is outside of their meridian. The meridian line goes right down here. And I hope you can see this little finger. So the meridian line goes right down the middle here. And New Zealand was in the meridian line with Australia. And the Latter-day Saint Church has decided to separate us and separate us from Norfolk Island. Well, that comes down, that's a whole nother story there. But this is what they've done to New Zealand. So I'm going to finish the video up now, but I think I've shown you everything. I just wanted to show you about what's going on in New Zealand, and that what we really, I've already deleted it, But what everyone needs to remember is what they're doing is, it does seem to me that what they're doing is putting our countries into debt with whoever will give us loans. They are going through all of our native people and showering them with millions and millions of dollars in settlement money, and saying that this money is for the grievances that happened to them during decolonisation. They are driving our countries into debt. New Zealand is in the worst debt that it has ever been in all of its history. And as you can see from Tonga, they're driving us into debt. And when we can't pay it back, the Latter-day Saint Church is walking in and offering to pay the debt. I mean, these people have got trillions of dollars going to offer to pay the debt for us. And what they've done is they're putting all of our people, they're trying to force our native people to be similar to the Privy Council of the Majesty. They're trying to make our country to be like where the natives of the country create a kingly Privy Council of which they are in charge, and they will let us, the Anglo people, run the government, but they will be in a similar role to what the Majesty is to us now today. They're trying to set it up now, and then what they've done is, just like they did in 1835, they're getting all the native people and they're going to give them a certain amount of power. But what they're really going to do is they've put them all under the United Nations and the instrument of the United Nations. So what's going to happen, to put it simply, these people here, this is what's going to happen to all you Maori that have not clued on just yet. These people here, keep adding them. Oh, all right, I'll just do them one by one. All right, here we go. Chris Barfoy, 1. We'll put him last because he's the biggie. Alpito Williams, CO. Jacinda Ardern, whose money has increased from a couple of $100,000 to $25 million thus far and rising since she's been in Parliament. Yep, I'm not having you on. 25 million now. These people here, Ian Ardern, and where's the other ones? Where is that Ross Ardern? He's always hard to find, isn't he? These people here, Ross Ardern, they're going to put in, what they're going to do is they're going to control all, they've divided all the tribes, they're going to control all of the resources, they're going to control all of the lands, everything like that, with their Privy Council that they're going to manage, that's going to sit above us, the people. But they're going to let the United Nations, with all their United Nations laws that they're inserting into all of our laws now as we speak through the 1990 Bill of Not Rights, we're all going to be governed by that, while they all manage the money and all the lands and everything, because it will be purchased by the Latter-day Saint Church. So we all got to, I don't know how we're going to figure this out, but I'm just trying to let everybody know what's going on. And all this money that they're giving to the tribes, all the money that they're showering on you, I suspect it is to put New Zealand into so much debt that you won't be able to pay it. And when you can't pay it, the Latter-day Saint Church will walk in and pay it for you. Now, listen to me, New Zealand. Even you New Zealand Maori and all of you islanders, whoever you are, Tongan, Cook Islanders, whatever you are. What do you think when another country comes in and pays your debt? Do you think they do it for nothing? They don't. You're going to have to pay the piper somewhere down the line, and you're going to lose everything. Now, you need to just be happy and poor. Be poor and happy. You don't need a lot of money. You've already got a lot of land. You've got your maraes. You're already allowed to govern. I don't know why they're telling you you'll be allowed to govern yourselves. You have always been allowed to govern yourselves. You've always had your separate councils at the marae. You've always had a lot of power in these countries. So, but I tell you when you won't have power. When Russell M. Nelson, when he takes over, when these people come in, I mean really come in completely and take over our countries, that's when you're not going to have power. Under the Majesty, you have power. Under these guys, you're not going to have any power whatsoever. All your power is going to be gone. Even all of it. It doesn't matter how far up the chiefly pole that you think you are. When this lot come in to Tonga through paying their debt, when they come into New Zealand through paying our debts, all your power is going to be gone. Now, you better think about this when you keep taking all this money, New Zealand people. You better stop doing it. Stop it. And the idea of listening to Edward Moses and his Privy Council and the Majesty gone and having a Privy Council, you're not going to be run by New Zealand Maori. You're going to be run by these people. And they're very powerful people, I'm telling you. That's it from me.